Tushtis, Tapo, Danam, Yasho, Yashaha, Bhavanti, Bhava, Bhutanam, Matta Eva, Prithag Vidaha, Buddhir Jnanam Asammoha, Shama Satyam Dama Shamaha, Sukham Dukkham Bhavo Bhavo, Bhayam Cha Bhayameva Cha, Ahimsa Samata Tushtis, Tapodanam Yasho Yashaha, Bhavanti Bhavabhutanam, Matta Eva Prithag Vidaha. Would anybody like to chant the verse?
Both?
Sure.
Sure. Buddhir Jnanam Asammoha,
Buddhir Jnanam Sammoha,
Shama Satyam Dama Shamaha,
Shama Satyam Dama Shamaha,
Sukham Dukham Bhavo Bhavo,
Sukham Dukham Bhavo Bhavo,
Bhayam
Bhayam Cha
Ahimsa Samata Tushtis,
Ahimsa Samata Tushtis,
Tapodanam Yasho Yashaha,
Tapodanam Yasho Yashaha,
Bhavanti Bhavabhutanam,
Bhavanti Bhavabhutanam, Matta Eva Prithag Vidaha.
Buddhir Jnanam Asammoha,
Buddhir Jnanam Sammoha,
Sama Satyam Dhamma Chamaha,
Sama Satyam Dhamma Shamaha,
Sukham Dukham Bhavo Bhavo,
Sukham Dukkham Bhavo Bhavo,
Bhayam Savyam Eva Sa,
Bhayam Cha Bhayameva Cha,
Ahimsa Samata Tushtis,
Ahimsa Samata Tushtis,
Tapodanam Yasa Yasaha,
Tapodanam Yasho Yashaha,
Bhavanti Bhavabhutanam,
Bhavanti Bhavabhutanam,
Matra Eva Prithag Vidaha,
Matta Eva Prithag Vidaha.
Buddhir Jnanam Asammoha,
Buddhir Jnanam Asammoha,
Shama Satyam Dhamma Shamaha,
Shama Satyam Dhamma Shamaha,
Sukham Dukham Bhavo Bhavo,
Sukham Dukkham Bhavo Bhavo,
Bhayam Cha Bhayameva Cha,
Bhayam Cha Bhayameva Cha,
Ahimsa Samata Tushtis,
Ahimsa Samata Tushtis,
Tapodanam Yasho Yashaha,
Tapodanam Yasho Yashaha,
Bhavanti Bhavabhutanam,
Bhavanti Bhavabhutanam,
Matta Eva Prithag Vidaha,
Matta Eva Prithag Vidaha. Word for word, please repeat. Buddhi, intelligence. Jnanam, knowledge. Asammoha, freedom from doubt. Shama, forgiveness. Satyam, truthfulness. Damaha, control of the senses. Shamaha, control of the mind. Sukham, happiness. Dukham, distress. Bhavaha, birth. Abhavaha, death. Bhayam, fear. Cha, also. Abhayam, fearlessness. Eva, also. Cha, and. Ahimsa, non-violence. Samata, equilibrium. Tushti, satisfaction. Tapaha, penance. Danam, charity. Yashaha, fame. Ayashaha, infamy. Bhavanti, come about. Bhava, natures. Bhutanam, of living entities. Maddaha, from me. Eva, certainly. Britak vidaha, variously arranged. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki. Intelligence, knowledge, freedom from doubt and delusion, forgiveness, truthfulness, control of the senses, control of the mind, happiness and distress, birth, death, fear, fearlessness, non-violence, equanimity, satisfaction, austerity, charity, fame and infamy. All these various qualities of the living beings are created by me. So we are going to move ahead to the 5th paragraph of the purport. We've broken this verse into a few days. So I will be reading from the 5th paragraph that begins with Bhava. Bhava, birth, should be understood to refer to the body. As far as the soul is concerned, there is neither birth nor death, that we have discussed in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. Birth and death apply to one's embodiment in the material world. Fear is due to worrying about the future. A person in Krishna consciousness has no fear because by his activities he is sure to go back to the spiritual sky, back home, back to Godhead. Therefore, his future is very bright. Others, however, do not know what their future holds. They have no knowledge of what the next life holds. So they are therefore in constant anxiety. If we want to get free from anxiety, the best course is to understand Krishna and be situated always in Krishna consciousness. In that way, we will be free from all fear. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 11.2.37, it is stated, Bhayam dvitiya bhinni vishetah syat. Fear is caused by our absorption in the illusory energy. but those who are free from the illusory energy, those who are confident that they are not the material body, that they are spiritual parts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and who are therefore engaged in the transcendental service of the Supreme Godhead, have nothing to fear. Their future is very bright. This fear is a condition of persons who are not in Krishna consciousness. Abhayam, fearlessness, is possible only for those in Krishna consciousness. Ahimsa, non-violence, means that one should not do anything which will put others into misery or confusion. Material activities that are promised by so many politicians, sociologists, philanthropists, etc., do not produce very good results because the politicians and philanthropists have no transcendental vision. They do not know what is actually beneficial for human society. Ahimsa means that people should be trained in such a way that the full utilization of the human body can be achieved. The human body is meant for spiritual realization. So any movement or any commissions which do not further that end commit violence on the human body. That which furthers the future spiritual happiness of the people in general is called non-violence. Samatha, equanimity, refers to freedom from attachment and aversion. To be very much attached or to be very much detached is not the best. This material world should be accepted without attachment or aversion. That which is favorable for prosecuting Krishna consciousness should be accepted. That which is unfavorable should be rejected. That is called samatha, equanimity. A person in Krishna consciousness has nothing to reject and nothing to accept, save in terms of its usefulness in the prosecution of Krishna consciousness. Shall we continue reading?
Yes.
One more, okay. Tushti, satisfaction, means that one should not be eager to gather more and more material goods by unnecessary activity. One should be satisfied with whatever is obtained by the grace of the Supreme Lord. That is called satisfaction. Tapas means austerity or penance. There are many rules and regulations in the Vedas which apply here, like rising early in the morning and taking a bath. Sometimes it is very troublesome to rise early in the morning, but whatever voluntary trouble one may suffer in this way is called penance. Similarly, there are prescriptions for fasting on certain days of the month. Some may not be inclined to practice such fasting, but because of his determination to make advancement in the science of Krishna consciousness, he should accept such bodily troubles when they are recommended. However, one should not fast unnecessarily or against Vedic injunctions. One should not fast for some political purpose. That is described in Bhagavad Gita as fasting in ignorance. And anything done in ignorance or passion does not lead to spiritual advancement. Everything done in the mode of goodness does advance one. However, and fasting done in the terms of the Vedic injunctions enriches one in spiritual knowledge. So we will go back and read the translation. Intelligence, knowledge, freedom from doubt and delusion, forgiveness, truthfulness, control of the senses, control of the mind, happiness and distress, birth, death, fear, fearlessness, non-violence, equanimity, satisfaction, austerity, charity, fame, and infamy. All these various qualities of living beings are created by me alone. So here in the 10th chapter, we'll say a small prayer of invocation for blessings. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So here in the 10th chapter, Krishna continues to describe the opulences of himself. And he continues, especially in this verse, to tell us about the different qualities that are possessed by the human being. And last week when we shared our class, we had told you about a story. How many of you were here last week? So we had shared a story about us getting stuck at the airport. And after that story, I was asked what happened if I actually got on my flight. So I'm just going to give a little bit more background, finish that story for those who asked. So when I got to the counter and I didn't have my passport, because of my forgetfulness, I forgot my passport. I dropped my daughter off to go to college, and I got to the airport and I looked in my bag and there was no passport. And so I panicked, and they want to know if I got on the flight or not. Well, since we only have a few minutes, I'll tell you really quickly that what happened is when I looked at the stewardess, the lady behind the counter, an immense amount of fear covered my body, and I almost started shaking because I was so afraid of many different things. Can you think of some different things if you were going to miss your flight? Then you have to fly across the world from Belgium to Delhi alone. What would happen? How you might feel? The first thing you might feel is, where did I put my passport, and can I get it again within the next 45 minutes that the flight is going to board? Oh, she has an answer, yes.
Scared.
Scared. Just really scared, yeah, really scared. So because of that fear, I turned to something that we call the opposite of fear. How many of you can think of what is the opposite of fear?
Faith.
Faith. Aren't you all knowing? You should be up here talking to us. So the opposite of fear is faith. And we also call that fearlessness, as described in this verse. So because the quality that was ingrained in me from a small age, I attended the school in the temple, the Gurukul. They taught us that when you're afraid, what should you do? Chant. You should chant Hare Krishna. So the exact opposite of fear is faith, and what I did, I believe, that day was probably the strongest bit of faith in those words that came out of my mouth when I chanted Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And I called out with every bit that I had in me that, my dear Krishna, I am such a fool. I have made this great mistake. And now, what else am I going to do but to simply have faith in you? You are everything for me, and if I have any hope, that is in that miracle that you will give to me. And so I continued to pray, and I continued to chant. I had 45 minutes. And those were the hardest 45 minutes I believe I've experienced, because I was running from the counter to the street. I called the temple in Belgium. And I said, please help me. I think I left my passport in my daughter's room. It was somewhere in her room. And the Mataji said, well, we found it, but it's going to take an hour and a half to get to the airport. And I ran back to the counter and I said, is there another flight available? She said, there's no flight back to Delhi for the next 10 and a half hours. And then I started to chant some more. But this time I wasn't chanting alone. I was crying and chanting, because I realized that faith was the only thing. I did get on the flight. I was going to tell the whole story, but I'm going to make it short. Somehow or other, when I visualized the remembrance of the form of the Lord, at the last moment, when I saw the lotus feet, simply by taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord with complete faith, not only did my passport arrive, with a magical Sankirtan Prabhuji who was waving it in the air across the street when you park for the departures. But I realized that those two beautiful black lotus feet of Radha Shyam Sundar are my only hope, my only shelter. Whether it is a passport that is lost, or whether it is someone who leaves their life, which is also temporary. Have any of you experienced something that you are fearful of, something that gives you extreme fear? Can we think of an example? We do have a microphone and they've asked us to use it whenever somebody could think of a situation you may be. I think every day we are put in a fearful situation. For example, when you wake up to take your bath, how many of us take cold showers every morning? What if the water is too hot? We're afraid it might burn us, isn't it? And what if there's no electricity and it's pitch dark and you have to enter the bathroom to take your bath? You would imagine, I remember when we used to stay in the guest house, we used to visit Vrindavan when I was about 10. And in those days, the toilets were in the ground. It was a hole in the ground, the bathroom. And in America, you have normal, sitting toilets. And I remember as a kid, going into the guest house, the room, and the light would go and you would be in the bathroom and there's a hole in the in the ground, and all I could think of were all the scariest things that would come out from that toilet and eat me alive. Right? There was one such person. He was a worker. In America, we have a store called Walmart. He was a worker in Walmart. And it was just around this time of year, it was the holiday season. And they were going to close for Christmas and the whole week of New Year's. And he didn't know that they were closing early. And he was the guy who stocked the milk in the big walk-in cooler. In America, we have these big walk-in coolers. So he was working in the cooler and the lights went out. And he realized, oh my goodness, they were closing at 6 p.m. today. Usually they close at 9 and I'm stuck in this cooler. What's going to happen? And they're not going to open the store for another 3 days because it's the long weekend, the Christmas holidays, the New Year. So the store will be closed. I am stuck in this cooler. What did they say? He said to himself, I am sure too. Will I make it? Do you think I'll make it if I'm stuck in a cooler for 3 days? Who thinks yes?
Yes.
She's very positive. Who thinks no? You guys are so smart. So what he decided was he was going to sit down. He found a piece of paper and he had a pen in his pocket, and he decided that he was going to write a note to his wife, to his son, to his grandmother, to his family, his friends. He was going to write a note saying, I'm very sorry I made this mistake. And I don't think I'm going to make it, but I really love you guys all so much, and take care of yourselves. He wrote the note, he sat down, he prepared himself to leave his body. Now, on Monday morning, when they opened Walmart and they opened the walk-in cooler, they found him inside. He was not alive. He was dead. He left his body, as we say. Does that surprise you? Actually, when he left his body after he wrote the letter, he was so afraid, so fearful that he would die. But when they took his body for a post-mortem, he didn't die from getting frozen in the walk-in cooler. He died from fear. And when they checked the temperature in the walk-in cooler, it was 72 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 25 degrees Celsius. It wasn't cold because they had turned off the electricity, which meant that the walk-in cooler wasn't even on. But he still left his body. Why?
Because he had faith.
Because he had faith that he was going to die, which is the exact opposite of fear. He was so afraid that because it was freezing in his mind. Everything has to do with the state of mind. The state of mind is where fearlessness or fear lies. Anxiety comes from the state of mind. Fear comes from the state of mind. It is all about perception, how you see a situation. We could be sitting in this room and the sounds from the knocking on that door. For us in the class, it could be a disturbance. For the man who is knocking on the door, it's an emergency. For the person inside, it could be great joy because he's been waiting for that knock on the door. So everything is based on perception. How do we perceive a situation? Just like Prahlad Maharaj. He was put into a pit full of snakes by his demoniac father, Hiranyakashipu. Now, if any of us were put into a pit of snakes, do you think we would be kind of scared? Or maybe a little scared? Or how about frightened? I can just imagine if a little snake came slithering in through the room, I don't think any of us would be sitting here right now. We would be jumping up and down, screaming, running away, isn't it? But Prahlad Maharaj was only 5 years old. How old was he? 5 years old. He was put into a pit of snakes, and you know what he thought? He thought, this is a wonderful opportunity for me. He was so happy. He was in ecstasy. He was thinking, this is a golden opportunity for me. He was thinking, now I can really be fearless and have pure faith in the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. When his father took him and tied him up and threw him off of the cliff, there's a special place in South India. It's called Singhachalam, and it's a big mountain. And Hiranyakashipu, you know, Prahlad Maharaj was 5 years old, this little tiny little boy. Hiranyakashipu was this very great big demon, huge. And you know how many more soldier friends he had with him? A whole army. For what? this little 5-year-old boy was so powerful. He was such a small boy, but Hiranyakashipu, who looked so powerful, he was a great king, took his boy and he tied him and he threw him off the cliff. What did Prahlad Maharaj think? He was so fearless. He thought, Krishna will protect me. Krishna will save me. And you know what? Krishna caught this baby Prahlad within his arms, and he held him and he carried him. Even though the strongest king of the whole universe was trying to kill him. Because this king had to become so big and so strong because he was attached to something that is so temporary. He was attached to his pride, to his false ego, to his senses, to his body, and that is all just gonna last a few minutes. But Prahlad Maharaj was attached to the eternal shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. That eternal shelter is permanent. So we have to learn, how can we? Lord Brahma, he instructs us, what does he say? Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchid Ananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. So Ishvara, who is the supreme controller? Parama Krishna. The greatest Krishna. Krishna means one who is all attractive. And he has Sat Chit Ananda. What does Sat Chit Ananda mean? Knowledge, bliss, eternity. And Satchit Ananda Vigraha. He has an eternal form full of bliss and knowledge. Anadir, Adir, Govinda, Sarvakarana Karanam. Anadir, there is no beginning. Adi means the primeval or the first, and Anadir means no beginning. He is the beginning. So Lord Brahma says, Anadir Adi. Anadi Adi Govinda. Who is Govinda? We know he's Krishna, but what does he do? Why do we give him the name Govinda? Because he satisfies the Indriya, means senses, and Go means the cows. So he is the satisfier of the senses of the cows. So we call him Govinda. It's such a simple, beautiful explanation of Krishna and his pastimes. What is Krishna doing? Does he have the biggest army? Or does he have the biggest fort to protect him? Or does he have any kind of weapons of protection that somebody will hurt him? No. What is he doing?
Playing the flute.
He's simply playing the flute. And he is tending the cows with no fear.
And we also call him Gopal because he steals makhan.
And we call him Gopal because he eats the butter and he steals the butter. Now, which greatest, strongest king would be sitting and eating butter? You go to see the king, and what is he doing? He's playing with the cows. And he's eating butter. And he's on the Jamuna River. He's stealing the clothes of the Gopi girls. Which king would you find like that? one who takes shelter of such a beautiful, simple master, that person can achieve complete fearlessness. All fearlessness runs away. Do you want to hear a little story? I'm sure all of you know this story. It is a story of, just like we were talking of the snakes, the pit of snakes, and if a snake came into this room, how would we become so afraid? There was a giant, very, very large snake, and he sat down in the middle of the forest. Now this snake, he represents cruelty in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And because Krishna says, Bhoktaram Yagyatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Suhrida Sarvabhutanam Gyatva Mam Shantim Richati. So Krishna says, I am seated in everyone's heart, and I am everybody's friend. So this snake was the opposite of that. He wasn't anybody's friend. He was a very cruel snake. What was his name? Who knows?
Kalia.
No, not Kalia. Wait, just wait. Aghasura. Now this snake, he sang a song that we learned in nursery. My name is Aghasura. I'm fat and round. My lip is in the sky, my jaw is on the ground. My wide open mouth is just like a cave. Soon it will be Krishna's grave. From my eyes fire glows, from my mouth hot wind blows. Now I am waiting to swallow you. Please come in, dear boy of blue. So it so happened that this big snake was on the road lying, waiting to swallow up Krishna, because Krishna had killed his brother Bakasura and his sister Putana, and he wanted revenge. Now that day, Krishna, who was also a very small boy, playing with his friends, he told Mother Yashoda, "Oh, my dear Maya, today I don't want to eat breakfast at home. I want to go and eat breakfast in the forest with my friends and the cows." So she packed up his lunch, and he took all of the cows and his friends. And do you know how many cows Krishna had?
1,000.
He had hundreds and thousands and millions. Do you know how many? Do we have any mathematicians in this room? He had 1 with 7 zeros. That's how many cows he had. And he took them all with him to the forest. And that day, they were going to eat their breakfast in the forest. And on their way, the cowherd boys were marching, and they were singing songs, and they had been decorated with pearl necklaces and golden jewels by their mothers, but they wanted more peacock feathers, more flowers, more leaves, and that's how they decorated themselves. And one boy would steal the other boy's lunchbox and pass it to a third. And in this way, the little boy whose lunch bag was stolen would get really upset, and he would run to get his lunch bag, but they would throw it to the other boy. And in this way, they would laugh and laugh and laugh. And then they would copy the sounds of the cuckoos. Cuckoo! Cuckoo! Let's make some cuckoo sounds. Cuckoo! Cuckoo! Do we have any cuckoos in the room? And then they would jump on the backs of the monkeys and pull their tails. And they would copy the shadows of the birds and make the peacock sounds. And in this way, the cowherd boys would have so much fun with each other. And then Krishna went far away, and he was standing and watching the beauty of Vrindavan, the beautiful forest. And the cowherd boys said, I bet I'll touch Krishna first. And the other cowherd boy said, oh no you won't, I'm gonna catch him first. And they all ran to catch up and touch Krishna. Who was gonna touch Krishna first? She knows all the answers, so don't tell her, right? Now who knows who touched Krishna first? Any guesses? That's what they told me when I asked that this morning. They said Balaram, but actually, I forgot to tell you that Balaram was at home because it was his birthday and he had to get ready for his birthday, so his mommy didn't let him come. So he wasn't there that day. But who knows who touched Krishna first? Madhu Mangal was a favorite. Sridham, Sudham, they were all favorites, but guess what? Who touched Krishna?
All of them.
Every single one of them touched Krishna first. And how is that possible? Because every single time they touched Krishna, Krishna showed them with so much love in his heart that I love you so much that you are first. Because you love me so much and you want to catch me. You're first and you're first and you're also first. And we are all first if we want to run and catch Krishna. So this was their faith, their shelter and their fearlessness, that they continued to play and march. And then they saw this great serpent lying on the road. And do you know what they said? Oh my goodness, look at that huge serpent lying in the middle of the road. Is it even real? Oh, we should not go near that snake. Oh yes, we should. Let's go and walk into the mouth is wide open. We're not afraid. If anything were to even happen to us, Krishna will save us, just like he did all the others, just like he split open the mouth of Bakasura, just like he saved us from the hands of Kaliya, just like he swallowed the forest fire in the jungle and saved the cows. We're not afraid of anything. We don't need an army. We don't need anything. Let's go. And so, the most simple boys of Vrindavan, who were only 6 or 7 years old, fearlessly marched into Aghasura's mouth. That is the complete dependency upon the lotus feet of the Lord. How they fearlessly entered into that dark cave, the swooshy, slishy tongue of Aghasura that was stinking from the fish that he ate, the bad breath that came. But these coward boys did not care, because they had completeness within their hearts, that complete feeling of surrender and security of the Lord. And so, without any fear, they entered into the mouth of this serpent. Now Aghasura, who was the greatest demon, the form of cruelty, closed his mouth. And what happened next? All the happy, the joyful, the singing, playing boys who were covered with leaves and flowers and garlands, peacock feathers, they all died. They all lost their life. And Krishna was outside watching, and he saw the demons rejoicing. Ah, ha, 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 ha. Just see what we have done. Now we will trap this boy Krishna. And the demigods, they were crying, alas, alas, what will happen now? What will happen to the boys? And they will eat Krishna. What will happen to us? And so Krishna thought, I have to save my friends. And he entered into the mouth of Aghasura. Now Aghasura was waiting for this blue boy to come into his mouth. You're moving the mic, okay? Keep your feet there. He was waiting for this blue boy to enter into his mouth. And Krishna went inside, and Aghasura got bigger. And Krishna got even more bigger. And Aghasura got even more bigger. And Krishna got so big that he was 12 miles long. If we go into the air, into an airplane, even 4 miles up into the sky, how afraid we would become, how fearful we would become. From the turbulence, from the height, we think, oh, we're going to die right now. We say all the Nrsimha Kavacha prayers that we know. And Krishna expanded himself. Why? Because when he killed Putana, he only expanded himself 3 miles long. But with Aghasura, who knows why he expanded himself 12 miles long? Because everybody was so busy getting ready for Lord Balaram's birthday. And nobody was watching him. And so Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes that he was completely free to exhibit his complete opulence. And so he expanded himself and burst a hole into the life airs of Aghasura. Now this demon Aghasura, every demon who is killed by Krishna attains liberation. A special kind of liberation that is called Sayujya Mukti. Sayujya Mukti means when you merge into the form of the Lord. But Aghasura did not get Sayujya Mukti. He got Sarupya Mukti. He immediately became a form the same as the Lord in the Vaikuntha planets. Who knows why? He got the same form because he was a big evil demon. And when the coward boys entered into his body, all of the hatredness, all of the fear, all of the animosity disappeared. And just in 1 second, by seeing the pure devotees of the Lord who had entered and touched him, he became purified. His mind became so purified that not only did he go directly back to Godhead, back home, back to Godhead, he got the same exact form of the Lord. That is the power of taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. That is the power of taking shelter of the devotees by giving them just a drop of pleasure before he left his body. He had a favorable disposition towards the cowherd boys, towards the devotees. Imagine what is the state. Imagine if all of us had that consciousness of Aghasura. Imagine if we took that consciousness of favorable disposition toward each other, toward one another. Where would we end up? Where could we be? We could find a place at the lotus feet of the Lord. So together, let us make that effort to become fearless by taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Are there any questions or comments?
Can you finish the story how Krishna revived the gopas?
Yes, so as soon as Krishna entered into the mouth of Aghasura, just by his glance, Jiva Goswami explains in the Sandarbha that just like when we go in front of the Lord, two things happen. The Lord glances upon us, and we glance upon the Lord. So just by that loving exchange, because our mind and our bodies are in a sleeping state, in an unconscious state, they say. So by the glance of the Lord, the cowherd boys were revived and they became alive again. And then Aghasura didn't finish his service. His body turned into a playground for 1 year for the cowherd boys. That was his service to the cowherd boys.
Daji, you are told that Krishna possesses millions of cows. How it was possible that because millions of cows have they need big space?
Yes.
How it was possible?
Yes, so actually this question is asked and it's also explained. So that question was asked and it was also explained that even though Krishna had 1 with 7 zeros, how much is that?
10 million.
10 million. I wasn't very good at math. He had 10 million cows. If you put 300 cows we had at one time in our Goshala, that we still have 400 cows, and that takes how much space? It takes a very large space. This is called the tatashta, the inconceivable potency of the spiritual world, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the explanation that is given by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, that 10 million cows is completely inconceivable. We cannot even conceive how much space they take. What to speak of how can we conceive who is the Supreme Lord? So that is that it?
No, I can't understand. How can you can only say conceivable?
It is completely inconceivable for us because we are in the bodily platform with.
As Bhagavatam is described, so many Maharajas, Dhruv Maharaj, Plura Maharaj, many, they have described with millions of cows, crores of cows. How it was possible? Because millions of cows, there are crores of cows, but just big space. How it was possible for them?
It is not possible for you to
So
understand
you
with
stand
logic
microphone?
because you living in a realm with time and space limits. In the spiritual world, there is no time and space limit. Krishna can do what he wants. And if you how to say, you copy your material perspective from the spiritual perspective, you will not get any.
So because
realization.
we are in a realm where time and space is limited, it is constricted. Just like there's a story of the frog in the well. So the frog, how he was calculating, the other frog went and said, I saw the ocean. And he said, oh, is it this big? And he said, no, the ocean is so this big. Is it this big? And he kept doing it and did it so, then he finally popped. Dr. Frog was a little professor just like you and me. There's a poem, that story. So our minds are like this frog. We are in our wells. We can't see the ocean because we've never seen. So Krishna had 10 million cows. But because we are in this small well, we cannot think how much that would be. That's called inconceivable.
To tell you just a short stories, we were on a motorway with my friend and she was driving and my friend ran out of space. So the road was narrowing on this side. A big truck came on the other side. So we were left with literally this much space. And somehow I just said, Krishna! And somehow we went through that space. The space was manipulation.
There's no way.
For this, with a normal mind till today, I don't know how we went through this space. But we went for some meters, we went through this space and we came to the other end. Something happened.
It's your faith. It was your faith. Because you had faith in, if I say Krishna, I will make it. And immediately Krishna expanded that space for you.
Something happens. It's the same, that those cows, space is no space. Manipulates.
But the story with H.G.Goura shows also that even they had faith, they died, they gave up the body. Of course, later they might get back, but they had to die first.
They had to die. Well, actually, two places it's described that they were unconscious.
Okay.
And some places it's described that they died. But it's a subtle state. And in the spiritual world, there is no subtle body, right? It's a spiritual body. So it's eternal, it doesn't die. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Ho.